Hello everybody, welcome to this afternoon's live stream. It feels like ages since I last saw you, and can't actually remember many days ago. So much has happened since then. I've had a busy time at Creating Craft at the weekend, and as always the workshop here is very busy. So I'm just gonna, hang on a second, I just need to mute myself. How do I do that? Okay, not like that. Oh, why is there always something going wrong? Oh, I know, just turn it down. There. I genuinely am not planning these complete, well, starts with a C and ends with a S, I guess. So anyway, I won't say it because it's not a nice word. So how's everybody been? I've already seen some of you have been messaging, and I think we've got Jane there. Hi Jane, and I think Emma is there from the makers. Am I right? Is that you, Emma? It could be Sophie because Sophie's working from home today. Hi Janet. She says, hi everyone, hope you're all doing well. And Helen is looking forward to new skills. Brilliant. And I'm doing the same again. I'm starting from the bottom, reading. Hi Faith, lovely to see you. You've already had a conversation with Helen, so that's great. Faith says, I'm looking forward to another happy place, this time with my daughter who is new to the felting scene at 14. And then I think you were shouted at that she's actually 15. Yes, it really matters at that point. I wouldn't mind if people said I was a year younger than I was. In fact, if you said I was 10 years younger than I was, I'd be even happier. Hi Jane. Hi Steffi and everyone who's here. That's what Jane's saying. What else? Hi Karen. Karen is here, and hi Donna, you're here, and yes, it's Emma. So that's been established now. I have got bad news for you. If your daughter is new to felting, she might have to stay new to felting for a little bit longer because I'm not doing needle felting today. There are tiny little bit aspects of needle felting. I make sure I stab that needle at least a couple of times, but mostly it's sewing because it's the doll's house dolls from the Making Soft Dolls book. So there's quite a range in there, and what I thought would be really fun, instead of making them look ordinary, let's make them look extra special today. So I have made a key worker here. This is, I don't know if Chandra's watching, but I'm sure she would tell me straight away whether this was correct or not. So this is our, it's got a flower stamen, which is meant to be a stethoscope. So I think that can just about double up. We had to knot them at the back because one was too, and I know he, strictly speaking, should have this over his nose. But if I put it over his nose, well, there you go. You can hardly see his eyes. So he's all ready to look after you if you need looking after. And then we have got another medical expert here. Now, apparently, doctors don't wear white coats anymore. I don't know so much here, but in Germany, they used to be called the gods in white because everybody believes what a doctor says. So yes, we all can have different views about this, but I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to your doctor. But in any case, I gave him a white coat because A, it's so easily recognizable, and B, it could be somebody who works in a lab. So they're really important right now as well, because we need to find out what's making our people so sick. And we know what it is, but we need to find out more. So basically, I'm going to be making one of these from beginning to end, and I'll try my very best to have them dressed as decently as I can. I'll tell you a funny story. I haven't got one to show you, but in the process of making the dolls, it made sense to me. Start at the beginning, Steffi. Stop telling stories from the back. So I went to Creating Craft this weekend, and I didn't realize that sewing takes so much longer than needle felting. Well, I didn't know it, but putting it into a tiny 45-minute show, I just doubly realized how much preparation I needed to do and how little time I had to demonstrate. So I ended up demonstrating and never actually finishing an item, which when you imagine how the dolls are made, especially if you've watched the live stream of how the velour dolls are made, it's a little bit like Frankenstein would have fitted right in there, right? And so I now know, because let's be totally honest, I don't think people were too impressed with the dolls. I might be wrong, but, or maybe they just thought, what the heck are the makers doing? We know them for needle felting. I might be wrong, but I would actually not have bought anything seeing my half-finished dolls. So you imagine you have a head, just a head, no body, with a ginormous big scar at the back of the head. That looks like like some sort of autopsy has happened on the back of the head with a V incision. Oh my god. And then I had this complete monster. In fact, it was him before he was dressed. All he had on were his trousers, and then he had, and then to make these little hands, you basically tie put little sort of mittens on, and they stick out, and then he's got these sticky wool pipe cleaner arms and no hair, and then this Frankenstein head from the back. And I've just said, and this is what you could be making. And I can imagine everybody's like, oh, this is a bit gruesome. It will happen during this tutorial as well, so it's not so much a sew along. It's, I will be skipping some steps rather than you watching me sew, because I have got all the preparations ready still from the weekend, so that's good news. And there will be some very weird looking well, probably the kind of people that maybe should be going to hospital and get sorted out. But yeah, in retrospect, I have learned a lot from this weekend, and I will make sure that people are left with a really pretty and nice image, rather than this, what's happened to this kind of doll. This is not a doll, this is just everybody's worst nightmare. So let's just have a look who is here. That's nice to hear then, Faith, that she's eager to learn anything. So, and Helen is the same. And Kathy is here. Hi, Kathy. Donna looks brilliant. Are you naming this one Chandra? Well, I could make a Chandra, couldn't I? I don't know how she feels about that. Yes, so everybody is here. Nobody said a lot of new things, which is just as well. So I'm going to start by introducing, first of all, these special fabrics. If you've watched any of the doll making tutorials before, then I will have talked about these. So these are really quite specialist fabrics. These are this is a jersey. Some people call them stockinette. Some people call them tricot. They're basically skin-colored, stretchy pieces of fabric, and you can tell which way they stretch. So this one stretches that way, and there's not so much stretch in there, and that's quite important when you use these, not so much on the little dolls, but certainly on the large dolls, because you want them to stretch widthways rather than lengthways. So if you imagine you make a doll with a stockinette body, you don't want them to go hugely long with really dangly and legs, but you do want it to be stretched sideways, because that stretch has been counted into the dimensions of the pattern and how you're going to make the body, so that you don't have to worry, oh, it's going to be a really fat doll, or out of shape doll. It has been calculated into it, but it hasn't. There has been no allowance made if you're using the fabric the wrong way, and suddenly you've got real long body and legs. So there are two types of fabric for the doll's house dolls, two weights, I should say. For the doll's house dolls, we only ever use the lightweight. So if you pop onto our website, you can see all the different skin colors, and they come in the same colors for the heavier weight and the lighter weight. So there is you will have the choice of both, because sometimes you make the head for the larger dolls from the lightweight, and then you make the body from the heavier weight. So you need the same colors to match the head and body. But for the doll's house dolls, we're only using the lightweight. And the good thing about this is that there's no right or wrong. It's really hard to see this on the camera. I might just zoom in really. I don't know if you can see it. I do my very best. If you look at this side here, this is the wrong side, and it looks a little bit like the back of a jumper, like oh, I don't know how to call it. I don't think the camera wants to zoom in, because it's actually zooming in on the baby. Okay, get out of the way there. It's probably finding something else to zoom in now. If I cover the whole, I'll cover the whole of the screen. So this is the wrong side, and this is the right side. I don't know if you can see the difference, but that's basically, and maybe you can see it better with this one. So this is the right side, that's where the stretch is, and this is the wrong side where there's no, it doesn't look like there is a like a stocking stitch. It looks more like a garter stitch on the back if you're into knitting. So anyway, if any doubt, just go with what we're telling you. Use the lightweight for the Doll's House dolls. So you need some of this, not a very big piece, because you basically just need it for the head and the little hands. You also need some pipe cleaners, and they are really quite important, and I have got them here. There. I've got a slightly shorter length than what we normally have, which is absolutely fine. I've got some more somewhere else, I hope. Oh yes, I can see them there. So this is how our pipe cleaner. We call this extra strong pipe cleaner. I must clarify something. I do this now on camera. When we say they're extra strong, it means that they have they're quite, when you try and bend them, there's sort of quite a resistance to bend them. So if you think of cheap craft pipe cleaners and you hold them like this, they usually flop, because they're of a different thickness of wire or steel inside. These are the pipe cleaners that you would use to clean a pipe, basically. That's the traditional pipe cleaners. However, they are, when we say they're extra strong, it doesn't mean to say that you can wriggle them back and forth and they don't break. They actually break quite easily that way. So they are strong to hold their shape, but they're not so suitable if you want to break them. If you haven't got any wire cutters, it's actually quite easy. You just need to do this a few times, and then it just goes. It does. I can feel it. Trust me. Which, when you are, there you go. Which is when you are, when you think they're extra strong, and I can pose my legs back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and suddenly you've broken the leg off. Can be a little bit of a disaster. So just to clarify that about the pipe cleaners. So let's just have a look. Okay. Oh, that's a good, on our start at the beginning. Everything I do looks a mess before I find its beauty. Oh, no, honestly, Faith, trust me, you wouldn't find the beauty in a half-finished Doll's House doll. It really does look grim. And I will show you. And then Donna is asking, are you going to do the Doll's House packs in the maker's shop that you had at Creating Craft on Sunday? They're there, I hope anyway. Emma, you could just check if they're there. So there are 4 different options. You can buy the small one, which looks like this, and I will show you what's inside, because this is everything that you need to make of Doll's House dolls. So most importantly, you get your you get 2 colors of this fabric, and if you imagine that you only need that much, this is doubled up, plus a little bit more for a fist, you can see if you have 2 sheets, that makes at least 4 dolls. But it might even make more, especially if you're making throwing a little baby in. And then you have 4 different color of felt sheets, so that you can dress the people in different colors. You also get a little bag of hair for the dolls to put on their head. So we've got a blondish curl, and then sort of a chestnut brown there. You get your wool, because you need that to make the head. I'll show you how that works. Most importantly, you get your gauze now, or cotton tubing. Now this is quite important when you're making a head, and especially if you want to tie an eyeline, which you can do with the Doll's House dolls. Again, I will show you all of that. And then you get, can't really see that, but you get some extra strong thread, which is really important, and you get some little shoes, and they're in our glassine bag, because we're trying to cut down on plastics, she says, and then everything else is packed in plastic. We just haven't got any better packaging solution for that yet. But these are the little shoes, and they're really great because they make your doll stand up. So they're on his feet there, and they are glued on. His leg is glued in, and the trousers are glued on, which is probably quite important just to mention. They can be undressed, these dolls, but you can't take their trousers and their tops off, because then you just have those sort of woolly bits inside. And remember what I told you, what they look like. So not a good sight. but you can put clothes over the top. So he's wearing his lab coat, and so they're really great to stand them up. You can stand up dolls in another way. You can make them a dress, and then they have sort of a circular area at the bottom that makes them stand up. So that's just another way of making a doll and putting them in a dress. And then you get your embroidery thread. You need embroidery thread first of all to sew up the felt. If you don't use normal thread, you can make it a feature. So the seams here, for example, of the doll, they've been sort of kept with a blanket stitch. There you go, and on the bottom as well. Makes them look quite nice. And you can also use it for eyes, mouth, and hair. So they have got lots of options, and the options you will know because you will need the book to do it. And then in the small pack you get 10 pipe cleaners. So that definitely makes you at least 4 dolls, but I think you can make 4 to 8 out of this. So put that all back again. Probably put it in the wrong way, but anyway, it's all going in again. I let somebody else sort this out who's good at packing. Yeah. In the large pack, you get basically twice as much of everything. So you have more choice of hair colors. You have more pipe cleaners. You've got more colors to dress your dolls, and there were 4. Here are 8. And then you also have your skin fabric in there, and you have 4 colors instead of 2. Same size, but obviously more colors, which means you can already straight away make a minimum of 8 dolls, but you could probably go to 12. You still get only the embroidery thread as you get in the small pack, because you don't actually need all of that. You'll have still left over even when you've made 12 dolls. And then you get 2 pairs of shoes instead of 1 pair of shoes, and you get more extra strong thread and more of this cotton tubing as well. So you have a whole choice of making your dolls. What's special about these packs is that you don't have to buy a big piece of skin fabric. You don't have to buy lots and lots of felt. If you don't have our extra strong pipe cleaners, you'll get them in that way. And most of all, you get the little wooden feet, and they're actually not that cheap if you buy them individually. So moving on, let's get and do some crafting. I hope that has answered the question. I hope Emma has found it. Emma, have you found the actual product for the starter packs? Because they were meant to be listed by now. So hopefully that has happened. I'm not entirely sure. So you might have to just ask Sarah upstairs. Oh yes, online. No, it helps to scroll down. So do we really need the book to do the Doll's House dolls? If you just watch what I'm doing now and you want to repeat it, you probably get away with just watching this. But you're missing out on quite a lot of fun things. So next, I can't remember now, but at some point, Emma, help me out with this. At some point, I'm making this little baby. So you have another tutorial there, because that's not what I'm covering today. In the book, you also get lots of little accessories. So if you want to make a little satchel like that, somebody can carry. I want to give it to this chap here, but it looks a bit strange. Well, he's just arriving at work. He's got his lunchbox in there. And of course, you're missing out on all of the other dolls, which I will be slowly but surely introducing here on our YouTube channel. So the answer is no, you do not need the book, because I'm giving you now for free instructions of how to make the basic shaping of these Doll's House dolls. And I know I keep talking about it, so let's just do it. So I've got a pipe cleaner length here. This is slightly shorter because I'm going to have to take a little bit off anyway. And the next thing I need is some of this wool that, remember, you do get in the starter pack. And I'm going to go a little bit smaller now so that you can see less of me but more of what I'm actually doing. Also, if you don't have the book, you don't get to know how to make these little sleeping dogs and cats that work size-wise quite nicely with the Doll's House dolls. Saying that, we do now have a kit online that makes 2 of each. Anyway, so moving on to this again. So you use your wool and you let it grip into the pipe cleaner, and you start wrapping just one end so that you give it a nice thick, a nice tight cover, and then you just bend that end in, and that's quite important that you do that, that you have trapped your wool in there and you've bent the pipe cleaner in like that. So the wool is around that bend and it's trapped. And then you cover more of it, and you're actually making it such a big cover, nice and tight, so that it turns into a ball. So it's almost like a lollipop at the end of your pipe cleaner. So this is the bit where you could use needle felting to help you out with this. You don't need to, because there's other ways of containing the wool. If you've got the right kind of wool, which is we're using our core stuffing here, then you can make the wool, if you wrap it nice and tight and flat, the wool will sort of stick to itself. You can also use the lanolin rich, which is even better, but it works less for stuffing. So we've gone for this one. I'm going even a little bit closer now. So there is the nice ball shape on there, and that's about the right size already. So now you have got options, and this is what will be explained to you in detail in the book. You can needle felt this part of the head so that it makes it a nice tight compact ball. You can then even start adding little features like indentations for the eyes, a little nose. If you know how to needle felt, then this is how you do it. But here today I want to do mainly the sewing part of the dolls. So if you choose to just use sewing and not needle felting, then the next thing that happens is that you've got this special cotton tubing, and what you do is you put this, slip it over the head, and I actually need to cut off a little bit because actually I don't, we're just doing a single layer. I'm slipping it over the head so that it's almost like you're trying to put a hat on your doll now, covering the whole of the head, so that at the end, look what's just happened. I've just wriggled my pipe cleaner. Well, earlier I wriggled it. This has not just happened. This is from trying to break it earlier. So I'm going to start again because I've got a head and the pipe cleaner's just given. This is not how easy the pipe cleaners break, I promise you. I must have wriggled it earlier. Anyway, start again. But that's good because you can see it again. There you go. Wrap the wool, then bend the pipe cleaner, then wrap it a bit more so that you end up with a nice sort of round head shape. And for this one I just need to do a little bit more. It's been a funny old week, I must say. I'll tell you about it in a minute. Right, there we go. Wrap a bit more, and when you get to the end, so you've got your little ball shape there. Like I said, if you want to needle felt it, feel free. Otherwise, just put the tubing on top like you're putting a hat on, but you're pulling it over the face. And then you're going to have two choices. You can go either over it again, so do a double layer. If you're doing a double layer, which can be beneficial because then you've got a really tight little head. But if you want to save yourself on this tubing, then you don't need to do that. You could just literally cut it on the top. I'm going to go over again, so I'm cutting it a bit further up, and then you have to sort of open this up first to prepare it. And now I'm going to give this a twist at the top, because when I go over it again now, so I'm like literally putting the hat over this again. It's really funny when the drawings were made in the book. It was really difficult to get the drawings to look like they're meant to look and not like something else. Oops, that twist has gone out. Try that again. Give it a twist. And then put this over. Bit fiddly. There we go. So because you've given it a twist, you've sealed the top up, and because you've twisted the pipe cleaner, once you bent it in, so you trap the wool, you can actually now pull the pipe cleaner out so that the wool just gathers all the way right at the top of this tubing, so you're not actually when you tie this at a minute at the bottom here, you're not tying, you're not trapping wool in it. And then you need your extra strong thread. Just getting that. Just bear with me. Oh, that's a piece already. So you need your extra strong thread, and then you're tying the base up so that you stop the wool from moving, stop the tube from moving, and making this a completely self-contained round shape at the top. So there we are. Give it a good pull, put a knot on it, job's done. Now you can cut the excess of that extra strong thread off. There you go. Hey, so now you've got the base for a head. You've got choices now. You can check out what it's going to look like once you put the skin fabric over the top. So if I now put the skin fabric over the top, you can see that it's just a very plain, smooth face, and that's absolutely fine. If you want to do that, if you want your dolls to look like that, then that's absolutely fine. I'll show you now how to tie an eyeline, because sometimes it looks quite nice to have like a more of a featured face in there. However, if you've been needle felting, you can do all of this with needle felting, and if you're an experienced needle felter, I don't even need to show you that, or you could just get the book. Right, so if you want to tie an eyeline, this is a little bit more fiddly than with the larger dolls. You have to go round with your extra strong thread twice around the head. Do not twist it. So make sure that the thread runs parallel to each other twice around. And then you tie it at one end, so not onto this extra strong thread once you've gone round it twice. And then you pull it so that you now, with the pulling of it, you make an indentation in the halfway in the head. So make sure it's halfway. Move it still, then pull it, and then put a knot on top. So now you have made an eyeline. If you've been watching the tutorials where we've been making the velour dolls, Hannah's, and I was making Sunny, then you will know that we had to then, on the back of the head, split this thread. But with the Doll's House dolls, it really doesn't just stay like this, because the back of the head it's so small that you don't actually feel it at all. So we don't even need to sew in these loose ends, because we're not splitting the thread at the back. So we can just cut this now. There. Now I've got a funny looking creature here. You get. I think you're probably getting now how this could look even more hideous than it does at the moment. However, to continue to check what the face looks like when you put the stockinette over. So now we've got chubby cheeks, and we've got a forehead because we've tied the eyeline into it. Okay. So the next thing you could be doing is you could sew on a little ball of wool. I would really not recommend to use beads or anything like this, because they work their way out. If you're any good at needle felting, then you can of course needle felt that into the place as well. If you're sewing it, then you roll this ball up as tight as you can. You'd also do that for needle felting, and you're literally sewing it onto the face by going in and out of it and adding details that way. I'm going to needle felt it because it goes slightly faster. So I'm just literally stabbing the wispy ends into my wool that's covered with the cotton tubing, but it's a very loose knit, that tubing, so the needle goes straight in, and all I've got to try and do is make sure that I don't hit the cotton thread too much with the needle. You can control the size of the nose. If you're sewing it, you just sew it on tighter. If it's way too big, just take it off and make it smaller. With needle felting, you just stab into it to reduce the size. So you have got a choice to reduce the nose. However, even though it looks absolutely weird when it's like this, keep checking what it looks like when you put your tube over it. Because what might look a little bit weird is just somebody with a slightly larger nose. So and that's okay. It often looks totally exaggerated before you put the skin fabric over it, because it just makes the features look, it tones them down a lot. So I'm going to leave this now as it is, and rather you me watching sewing, what I have done is, to get to this, is I've just fitted my tube onto there, and then just sort of, it needs to be a nice tight fit. And then I just gauged it by size. Every doll is different, even though in the book you do get measurements, so you could follow just that. But if you don't, just make sure that you've got a nice tight fit, and then cut the tube or this piece of fabric before it's a tube. You need about sort of that much, definitely to cover the head and a little bit extra. And then once you've done this, you turn it inside out. So I've sewn this earlier, there. So you've got the seam here now, and the seam is on the inside, and you need to make sure now that the seam stays on the back of the head. I'm just putting this over his head, and even this is really long, so I'll show you in a minute how I'm shortening it. So the first thing you're doing now is you're tying another thread around the base of the head, which is, so this is the body of the doll, or this will become the body of the doll. And I'm going to tie another thread around the base, trying to keep it wrinkle free around the chin. Haha, there's wishful thinking. Okay, I've managed on my doll to keep it smooth, and I'm tying this now as I did before with the cotton tube, and I put a knot on it. I'll give it a good old pull. I've got one end much longer than the other, but it's fine, doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to cut this as well, there. So from now on we know where the front of the face is, because if you've made a nose you know it anyway, but also if you haven't made a face, you know that the seam is always at the back there. So we've got all this stuff here at the top, which we now need to sew in, but because it's quite long, it shouldn't actually be longer than the head. I'm just going to cut a bit off. And yes, the seam is not as solid anymore now, but you will see in a minute that it doesn't matter, because I'm sewing it to the back of the head, and this is where the V incision scary look comes into it. So I just need a sewing needle and some sewing thread. It doesn't really matter what color sewing thread you use, because it's not, this is the part of the doll that will be completely covered by hair. So I'm using quite a large needle here. Don't really know why, just the first one I grabbed there. And so now I'm going to, my seam's slightly off, but I'm making sure that the front of the face is as smooth as possible, so that all the wrinkles and everything is at the back. And I'm starting, just securing the thread at the back. This is another reason why we don't need to worry about the back eye line going around the back of the head, because by sewing this piece of fabric over at the back, we're sort of almost filling that gap up. So I usually start on the sides, and you're using an invisible stitch, which means, and I'll show you this really close in the camera, it means that you're going into one bit of the fabric entirely and coming out, and then you're going into the other bit of the fabric and coming out as well. I'm sure that last time when Chandra was watching, because she's a surgeon, she said what stitch that was in terms of medical terms, but I've forgotten. I think, well, we call it an invisible stitch in the sewing world rather than in the medical world. This is another opportunity if you find that your tube that you've sewn is a little bit on the loose side. Sorry, I've just caught my thread around the pipe cleaner. You can tighten it a bit more, and then you go all the way round the base. And the reason why I start on the side is because then it gives me chance, I've now got this more secure, to pull the top over the bottom and make it look neater. So I'm letting this end of the end of that fabric tube, I fold it under as I'm sewing along, because I'm going in and out of each fabric, and it just sort of swallows up the end. So the seams on the inside. Ow, that was my finger. There. Just gonna see what everybody's saying. Oh, hi Diane. Sorry, Diane says sorry I'm late, but we don't mind you being late. I should also say that of course, if you buy the books from us, any of our books, they're all signed copies, which is the only place where you can buy signed copies. If you want to gift it to somebody, you can even leave a note for us on the order that you've made and just tell us what you want to write in there within reason. And as long as it's not a novel, we are happy to adjust the personal note in there. And what I will say is, though, if you have bought from us a book, we would be extremely grateful if you went onto Amazon. Even though you haven't bought the book there, you can actually leave a review. And I'm being totally callous about this, but if you leave a review on Amazon on a book, it actually brings the book up in Google rankings, and that would be amazing. So even as a non-verified purchaser, you can leave a review on any of our books on Amazon, and it really helps us as well as just normal small time authors. We're never going to be rich selling our books, and it's also quite a small publisher who has managed to survive in a very throat cutting world of books being sold off very cheap on different sites. So yeah, anyway. Right, so now I've done the head on the back here, and then basically that's most of the head done, and now I can start making eyes and thinking about hair and that sort of thing. Though I think the hair I might leave until the very last bit. So I'm just gonna cut my thread now. There you go, and this is what I mean about how it's not exactly very attractive, and when you've got very little time to demonstrate, it's that bit that people remember when you walk away rather than the finished bit, because I never got to the finished bit. So yes, anyway. So I'm just gonna show you the front of the head. Oh, there's the camera. So I've got a little bit too close for my liking into the face on this side, but it's okay because I can cover that with hair. So he's just got to have like chunky side bands. Is that what you call it? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, there you go. So now the next thing I'm going to do is hands, and for this you need an extra piece of pipe cleaner, and it's actually it's better to make the arms too long than too short, because you can shorten them but you can't lengthen them. So I'm going to go with what's that, about 12 to 14 centimeters, and I'm literally just breaking the wire by going wriggly. There you go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap a tiny little bit of wool at each hand, at each end of the pipe cleaner for the hand. There, go round and round. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm making this a slightly bigger area, but also I don't want a sharp pipe cleaner poking out, especially if you do make dolls, the house dolls for children. You really don't want there to be any sharp pipe cleaners. And then I'm just getting rid of the rest of the wool by going along the arm, and because I do want to build up a little bit of bulk there. So I've done one, and now I'm going to do the other. So if I measure this now, yeah, the arms are actually quite good, because you're losing at least a centimeter by bending the fists in there. So I'm going round, cover the ends up. These hands will not stay like this. We are covering them with another piece of skin fabric, and I'm going to cover a little bit more on the arms as well. I can't entirely remember how it's such a long time ago since I wrote this book, so I'm going to have a little look, because there's many ways of doing it. Oh yes, I can see. So what I've done in the book is I've wrapped I've fastened the arms onto the doll first and then wrapped it with wool, but it doesn't really matter if you do it the other way around. The main thing is that you leave a little bit of this white pipe cleaner exposed, so you have a chance of wrapping this around your doll just below the head. just once, so you fasten and you can go around this stockinette ending or whatever you have got there. Just go around it once like that. Okay, so at the moment we've got a doll that can still be one that can have legs, 2 legs showing, or it could be dressed in a dress. And I'm actually gonna take some of this pipe cleaner off, or I might wrap it around the legs, because now what we have to do is we have to attach legs. So the area from the top of the legs to the upper body is actually I don't know how much it is, how many centimeters, but again, if you have the book, you can follow it exactly right. Here I've just got to literally cross-reference the book. They're beautiful drawings, by the way, in the book. I'll just show you some of it. There you go. So that's the doll where you can make the doll with a dress, and there's one with a skirt, that one there, and then you can make one, oh yeah, there's the baby, so the one with the legs must be at the beginning, at the very beginning. There he is. So the way that the book is been, certainly with the Doll's House dolls, I'm not calling it mum and dad and child. I'm actually calling it doll with short or long top and trousers. I don't like this thing of identifying women with skirts and men with trousers. And I'll tell you a funny story. I'm just going to go big screen now for a minute so I can talk to you properly. It's not actually very funny, but well, it is kind of funny. So when my children were little, I would obviously read all the classics, including Enid Blyton, and they didn't think anything about it. But I have got 3 really, really strong girls. I'm very proud of it, because they're not, I think they're going to be amazing when they're grown up, and they're certainly not going to be pushed around by anybody. And one of my daughters, she said, "Oh, Mum, I couldn't go to sleep last night. I was just listening to an audio story, like, you know, not audio tape. That's far too old-fashioned. They probably don't even know what that is anymore." Anyway, they listened. She listened to a story, and she said, "I was listening to Enid Blyton," and she said, "How terrible is all the language in there?" And it's about George, who obviously is a girl, but wants to be a boy. And one of the boys, he says, "George, let me sort this out because girls don't fight." And she was like totally appalled. And then I think George started crying, because they thought she was a boy. And somebody said, "Boys don't cry." And my daughter, she was absolutely disgusted. And I thought, yes, I've done something right here. So I don't know how. Oh yes, the book. That's what we came to talk about. So in the book, there's no stereotyping going on, hopefully. I tried very hard not to have stereotyping going on. So you can make any kind of family constellation that you want, because the nuclear family has changed, but you can make a nuclear family if you want to. And so there are dolls with trousers and top, with short top and long top, and then there is a dolls with a dress, and then there's dolls with a skirt and a long top and a short top, and so on and so forth. So you can decide whatever they want to be, rather than making mum and dad and sister and brother and another baby sister or whatever, which of course you can do, but I'm just saying that you have the option. Okay, talked about this enough now. So I've got my person here. I've got this extra bit of pipe cleaner here at the moment, which will come handy when I need to tie the legs in, but I might have to shorten. And so I'm now going to wrap a little bit of wool around the leg ends as well before I fasten them on. In the book, I've probably done it the other way around. Exactly like with the hands, I bend the ends in so that there are no sharp ends. If I'm making legs, it's really great to have something that's big enough that can fit inside the shoe, because we're going to glue this in, so I need it to fit, be a more snug fit than just a pipe cleaner. And then I'm getting rid of the rest of the wool again. I'm leaving the gap in the middle because I don't want it to be so bulky that I can't actually bend it around the body shape anymore. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. When you wrap pipe cleaners with wool, Don't know if I mentioned it already. Keep it nice and flat like a ribbon, and sometimes it's easier to actually twist the pipe cleaner and keep the wool steady rather than turning the wool round and round the pipe cleaner. So I'm literally, as soon as I can get a grip of that pipe cleaner, I'm twisting the pipe cleaner and let the wool run here from my left hand. I can keep it nice and tight and even that way. Right. Hi Diane, have you got a late note? Oh, I think have you got a late note? Okay, not sure what you're referring to, but I'm probably missing half of the story. Diane, late lunch, Helen, needs to do this on a full tum. Oh. Faith is saying, thank you for explaining all that. I did wonder what the difference was. This is about the stockinette, no doubt. Donna is saying, thanks. I looked on Sunday afternoon and it wasn't there. I might be spending more money. Well, we're not stopping you. And oh dear, Card going to have a meltdown. Well, just pace yourselves, and you never know what you learn from it and when it might come in handy. It's an investment in your future. So anyway, so now you can wrap the legs around here once, and then for extra stability you can use the leftover pipe cleaner and go back up the body. It's worth just to bend the legs down to sort of work out the proportions. You can use the pipe cleaner and just wrap it around the body area, because we need to build a little bit of bulk up there anyway. Just make sure that you do tuck away that sharp end of the pipe cleaner. If all fails, just cut it a little bit shorter and then you've got less to wrap there. So now I've got a little person there, and all I'm going to do now is I'm going to build up a little bit of bulk with the wool, but not too much just yet. The thing about these dolls, house dolls, is that you make all the clothes, you customize all the clothes. So you don't want a lot of bulk on the arms, because the felt that we're using is quite a thin felt, but because they're so small, these dolls, they do, the felt does take up quite a bit of space, and if you make the arms really covered, then you end up with really, really out of proportion big arms. So I'm just giving the doll a little bit of a body cover here. I also noticed that one leg is shorter than the other, so just make sure that we'll sort of bend it into place a little bit. That's a bit better. And then most people probably got one leg shorter than the other. I certainly have. And then you can wrap a little bit of wool around the neck as well to tidy that up. I often tie the arms a lot higher around the neck, but he's just got my shoulders. So you can use the wool this way to also fasten the arms in a bit more so that they are nice and secure. So use your wool you don't need to do any needle felting, you're just using the wool. And if you're using the core stuffing or the lanolin rich for this, you get it's a wool that sort of kind of sticks to itself. It's really great that way. Okay, so here we go. So he looks quite funny now. He's got a very severely strange back of the head, but from the front he looks okay, and he's got his 2 legs, 2 arms, and now we just need to make him nice and straight, because now we're going to cut the clothes to measure. But before we do that, we're going to give him little fists. Oh look, he can do somersaults. Right. So for the fists, you don't need very much fabric at all. You just literally need it enough to go around each of the fists. And I've just cut a little bit off this end here. Again, all the measurements and so on are in the book. Oh, it's not very straight cut. Doesn't really matter. So one's slightly smaller than the other, but it doesn't matter. So all I need to be able to do is, and I just want to go a bit smaller so you can see that bit a bit better. I just need to have enough here so that I can put the stockinette around his little fist. And then you've probably guessed this already, I'm going to wind this up with an extra strong thread. So the extra strong thread is really good to have, and you will be getting that in your starter pack, plenty of it. So I'm just going to wrap this around his little fist. There's a lot of excess fabric there, which I'm not too worried about right now. If you've made a massively big square there, you can always cut that. Oh, what have I done? Oh, I've gone round and then not round all the way. There. Just go around a couple of times so that you have a bit of a, sorry, it's very fiddly. I'm probably got my hands in the camera. Just pull it tight. And this is why you need the extra strong thread, because you want to, and it needs to be thick enough so you don't cut your fingers, but also thin enough so that it's not too thick. And it needs definitely to be strong enough so that you don't actually tear it. And then I'm going to cut the ends off. So if you feel that this is too much bulk here, just trim it down. Nobody knows that you've done that. It's just got little mittens on. And there you go. So now he's got his little hand there. This camera is really naughty because it won't zoom in unless you cover everything else up in the background. Come on then. No. Come on. Still stuff that it can pick up. Okay, I'm going to go into the other. I can hold that really close to you. There you go. That's the arm or the hand. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. Quite easy. So I'm not worried how it looks out on the fist. As long as the fist is smooth, that's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't matter if the rest of it doesn't look so smooth. Right, a bit more thread. Go around it. Yeah, I was saying it's been a funny week this week. I don't know, things. I don't know. It's just felt a bit overwhelming. We're in our second phase of lockdown, and even though you'd think, well, now sort of, you know, we can see the end of the tunnel. I don't know about you, but I found it really almost worse than the first bit, because I don't really know why. Just felt strange. I think personally for myself, it's also been because I've been working so many hours and putting so much effort into trying to keep positive and trying to keep going and trying to keep upbeat. And not that I'm not upbeat. I'm quite a positive person as such, with a positive outlook. I think I just get to a point of exhaustion, and then I just crash. And I crash for a bit, and then I pop up again. It's like this. Like one of these cups, when you knock them over, they sort of wobble a bit and up again. That's probably me. There you go. He's got 2 mittens on. Can you now see why this is quite freaky? It's a little bit like at this point, it's not much of attractive doll, right? This is the back, even worse. Bit of a botched job there with my sewing, but in any case, it doesn't matter. We cover it all up. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make him trousers. The main thing is that when you make trousers, unless you make the trousers so that you have to decide whether you have the trousers and the top tucked in like this, or whether you have the trousers and the top hanging over it. As we're doing scrubs for the NHS scrubs, we need the scrubs to hang over the trousers. So I'm going to make him trousers first in that order. And every dressmaker will be completely appalled by my dressmaking skills now, because we're making trousers to measure. And the way to do that is you measure, or not measure, but you know that from here to there, that where the waist is, that's where the trousers, that's how long they need to be. So I'm folding this piece of felt into half. Actually, I was going to make one in dark blue scrubs, so I'm going to just change and go to this piece of fabric. Sorry guys. So I've got my little person on here, and I'm folding this in half, and the fold at the top is going to be where the waist is. And I know it's not open, but it works better that way around. I feel. So you can adjust the length of the trousers. This is the end piece of the fabric here. You might not be able to see that so well. You can adjust that by just folding it, but that already now determines how much fabric I need in terms of length. And then I'm going to change my mind now because I need that larger piece for the top, because he needs quite a large top, and that will be just right for the top. So I'm just going to either make the trousers shorter, let's have a look, or I've got to, oh, I've got another piece here that's not as wide, because the trousers don't need to be so wide. Anyway, start over. This is what I mean. Dressmakers would be absolutely tearing their hair out. So I'm folding my piece of felt in half. You can see there's the half. And then I'm making these trousers to measure so that the feet are poking out. You can do it that way around so you can actually see the doll. The waist, the fold is the waist, and then you want the feet just to poke out a little bit. And then you're cutting this into that length. That's going to be your trousers, okay? And then you sort of notice if this fits onto him, and that is his waist there. That's his crotch here. So you're going to cut literally into the center. These probably got so you're cutting into the center where his crotch is. Yeah. Okay. 2 trouser legs now. There, one there. Still doubled up the felt, but because these are absolutely ginormous, you're going to cut a little bit of excess felt off on either side. So keep them nice and lined up. Just cut a bit off so that you're actually making, and they're staying completely square, because they don't need to be shaped, or they don't need to have pleats or anything like this. Just cut them off so that they kind of fit him, but they're a little bit on the large size. So these are the trousers, they're the legs. This is what it looks from the other side if you figure put the figure on top and work it out that way. And now it's just a bit of sewing. They're still joined at the top, and I'm going to leave them joined for now, because then I don't need to line them up so much. And at this point, this is where I always feel extremely embarrassed, because I just think I don't follow any rules. There's probably lots of other ways of doing this, and I'm not stopping you to do whatever way you want to do to achieve the same thing. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a light colored thread so I can actually show you. I use the blue that I used for the blue scrubs. I can show you the stitches, because I'm going to sew these from the inside out. Normally I sew the clothes the other way around, but with the trousers I quite like it that the seams are inside rather than on the outside. And now this is the boring bit, but I start at the top and I just sew. Just go a bit smaller again. There. I just sew in and out here. Just establish my thread. Even go around it. Doesn't really matter. This is the inside, so nobody's going to see it. Nobody's going to see it. Right. This is my thread established now. It's a bit uneven end. Cut that off so it doesn't get in the way. And now I'm going to do a back stitch. So I'm going in and out of the fabric. This I'm sewing up the side, and I've doubled my thread up, and I've just pulled it also, which is very annoying when that happens. Come on, where are you stuck now? I've got a knot in there. Ah. Okay, I've got a little knot in there somehow. I've pulled it. Might have to start again. I can't undo that knot. If this happens to you, then rest assured you are not the only one that this happens to. Might be able to rescue this. Or maybe not. Or maybe I will. Aha! Done it! There we are. Okay, back stitch. Back to this now. Just sometimes need a bit of rough of skin on your fingers, and you pull the thread where you not want to, especially when you're doubling it up. So I'm going in and out. So I'm going I'm going 2 stitches forward, which is this. Now I'm going overtaking that 1 stitch that I've come out of, and then I go in where I've overtaken it, and behind it I'm going 2 stitches forward. So that's a back stitch, in case you didn't know. It's a nice stitch because you can make a nice, neat and solid seam. I'm doing this as fast as I can, and I've got to sew up the trouser leg on the side and on the inside. And while I'm doing this, because it's quite boring to watch me sew, I am going to go on the big screen again and I can have a conversation with you all. Right, that's what everybody's saying. Helen and Diane, do you know each other? Because I feel like you're having a conversation that only you know what you're talking about. I'm just having a cup of tea. I'm on peppermint tea today. Everyone a maker. Oh, and I've got news on the mugs. Well, Emma has got news on the mugs. We're in the design stage. So because it's our birthday coming up next month, we thought we should have another round of mugs, and they will be available for you to buy too. I'm really excited. So Donna says they keep putting temptation in our way, don't they? I don't have much willpower when it comes to crafting. It's an addiction. Makes you understand how smokers and alcoholics feel. It's so much healthier, Donna, than smoking and drinking. Come on, just and you end up with something really beautiful, and it's been a very therapeutic process, and it's really good for your soul. And it doesn't hurt your body, it doesn't make you feel ill, and it has no long-term consequences physically. Maybe it has on your wallet, but not, and alcohol and cigarettes are so expensive. And then they literally just go up in a smoke and, yeah, down the toilet. So, yeah, don't drink and smoke, just craft. How much better is that? So, do we have a crafter support line? Well, you're looking at it. I thought that's what we were doing with a crafter support line. Yes, it's definitely quite addictive. I do give you that. It's not. But it's lovely, it really is. I mean, I just think that so many more people could be crafting, and so much hardship and so much problems could be solved if people would just turn to crafts. It's not just the making of it, it's just the feeling that you're left with after. And when you look at it, or if you are making something for somebody else, it's just a special, I don't know, it's just very special. And what's really nice is actually it's becoming more appreciated as well again. So when we used to make things, well, I wasn't even old enough then, but when my grandparents would make things, it was often for a practical reason. So yes, they obviously got pleasure out of it, making it, and yes, they saw that it was being put to good use and it put smiles on people's faces. And then we went through a phase where Granny's jumper was in the bottom drawer of the cupboard, and it was only pulled out when she came to visit, so that you could actually say, oh yeah, we love it, she wears it every day, and which was of course not true. Then we went through a phase where everybody was asked again, oh, I'm really good at that, can you make me something, can you not do this, I remember you can sew, I remember you can knit, I remember you can do this. And then it was again worn with pride and joy. And but I also remember the times when I would craft something and I was absolutely, I tell you what, I once needle felted a birthday gift, and it was the shape of a kettlebell, and I think it completely bypassed them. That I actually spent hours and hours and hours of stabbing this ginormous kettlebell. And I think that's changed now as well, that people actually they suddenly realize, because they've seen that crafts is around, and they see that the effort and the hours and the thought and the trial and errors and all of that goes into it. I do believe that people are starting to, even non-crafters are starting to appreciate when they're getting a handmade gift, because it just doesn't happen. It's not like at the click of a button, or that'll do, grab it off the shelf and run. There has time has been spent, thought has been put into it, yes, and money spent, but it's almost like the money doesn't count, it's the thought and the effort, and just it. I think people should feel very honored when they get handmade things, because yeah, somebody made an effort, and while they were doing it specially for that person, especially for you. How nice is that? Right, I'm just gone round one side of the leg there, gone round the inside of the leg, and now I'm just coming round to the other side of the leg, and I'm sewing as fast as I can. I'm just gonna have a little look what people are saying as well. Doll's House Baby coming on the June the 16th. Oh, thank you, Emma. That's a really good to mention. So we're making one of these, and that one is a sew along. So for this you do need felt and a bit of skin colored fabric, pipe cleaners, and some stuffing wool. We won't be making the little bridle, but it's in the book. So, and I really want to do another doll tutorial. I don't know how people feel about that, but I thought the knitted doll might be quite nice. Obviously you have to be able to knit to do that one, so I don't know. Donna, how are your knitting skills? Yeah, everybody needs a baby like that. My daughter just asked in all innocence, what could it look like, Mum? Oh, oh. Oh. I said a tadpole. Yes, well. Oh, hi Chandra. Woohoo! Hope you're all well. Can't stay. Oh no, we needed your expert advice. If you're still there, Chandra, does this look like, well, I know it doesn't look like you, but could it be one of your colleagues? How am I doing? What do you think to the stethoscope? Flower stamen? How does that sound? Yes, let us know what you think. I did ask Chandra for advice on color of scrubs, and she was the one who said doctors don't really wear white coats anymore. So, but I did make one, and I decided it's somebody who works in a lab. Right. Oh, Chandra know each other, of course, so following what you're doing with the book, it's great. Oh, thank you. Hi, Pat. Oh, it's nice to see you. I haven't seen you and heard from you in ages. Yes, we would normally have seen a lot more of each other, but with what is going on, who knows when we will see each other again. Yes, so hope you're well. Donna is saying, just been helping the local farmer load her sheep into her truck to take back to her farm. Living in our field for the past 8 weeks. Oh, that's so nice. You saw some baby lambs. Well, actually, that's a bit of a double whammy. You saw some lambs. Yeah, we've had the same. We've had lambs in our field, and I have to say I've become extremely I don't know, since I've been working with wool for the last few years now. Well, I'm actually vegetarian now, but I couldn't eat at first I couldn't eat lamb anymore. I just couldn't eat it. Just couldn't bear the thought that I'm eating what these amazing animals create. I know I get taken people take the mickey out of me at home in my family relentlessly about this. Because I've just become really sensitive, but actually I can't eat any meat anymore now. I've even stopped eating fish now. So yeah, I'm fully vegetarian. Though I must say, I don't think I can go down the vegan route because I do like milk in my tea. That's my downfall, I guess. Right, just one side of the trousers to sew up. I'm just about keeping up using the core wool that I bought from the makers this month. It's wonderful. Oh, brilliant! So you're actually you're sewing along. That's amazing. I didn't even think that that was slow enough for this, but that's great. But of course, you also know you can always watch it again and then stop and start as and when you need it. So just getting to the last bit of sewing on these trousers. I think I should have started a new thread, but I'm making use of this for as much as as long as I can. I'm in love with the Lanolin Ridge core wool that came with my phone this month. That's Faith. Yes, I know the Lanolin Ridge is just too good to be true, especially if you are wrapping wire armature or making shapes, and you need it to happen fast. It's an amazing wool. It really is. Okay, I'm running out of thread now, so I'm just going to get rid of this and then start a new bit. It's one of those days today where everything that I touch falls down, and I haven't been putting the needle into my finger too much, but I did earlier, and yeah, I think it's just tiredness, and I'm having a day off tomorrow, so that'll be nice because it's meant to be a nice warm day as well, so I'm looking forward to that, sitting outside and enjoying this part of the world where I live in the Forest of Dean. If some of you might know, some of you might not, but it's I live on the estate of an outdoors education centre in the Forest of Dean, and of course normally at this time of the year there would be lots and lots of schools and private groups and all kinds of things happening, and they're not happening. And I mean, even when they do happen, the estate is so big it doesn't really matter. We still have plenty of space and plenty of freedom, but as they're not happening, it just feels well, we've got it all basically, completely hang out and use every square inch of it, which is really nice, and I feel extremely. We don't own it, so it's not like I'm not bragging about something amazing. And my husband is the head of centre there, and it's just so happened I can live there and make. I just love it, absolutely love it. We moved there last year in August, so we haven't seen a full season there yet. We haven't seen there all 4 seasons yet, I should say, but I'm loving this time of the year, especially with the forest, which we have private forest land on the estate, but then of course there's the Forest of Dean, which, oh my goodness, what else do you need on your doorstep? It's just amazing. Right, got to the end now. So what I've done is I have gone all the way to the top, but I've left a little bit of a gap so I can actually cut into it, because this is the top of the trousers, which are meant to fit around his waist. And I'm actually not cutting this thread because I might as well use it to sew the trousers onto him. So I'm just going to cut this felt now at the top. There, so now I've cut that bent bit off, and now I need to turn it right way around. Just doing this with my little finger in there, because that's the only finger that fits these trousers. Turn them inside out. Sorry, gone quiet now. Requires a lot of concentration turning trousers inside out. And so the reason why I've used this thread is to show you the stitch, but of course the downside now is that you see little bits of it on the outside, but it's not the end of the world. But at least you could see that stitching that I was doing rather than doing dark blue on dark blue. Come on. So I'm using the scissors to push the trousers through. If you have the knitting needles or anything like that, trouser legs, then obviously use that, but this is quite a blunt pair of scissors, so it's not like it's going to damage it. There. So I've got a pair of trousers. Woohoo! And now I'm going to fit them on. Let's see. Let's see if they fit you, little chap. In you go. Woohoo! Perfect. Bit big on the waist, but that's fine because we're going to sew this on now. So I've got he's got his trousers on, and it's better that they're too big than too small. He's still got one leg slightly shorter than the other, so I'm going to give that a pull. Come on. And now I'm just going to quickly sew the trousers on. Remember, none of this is going to be visible because he's going to have his scrubs on top, and we're going to make these next. So I'm at the moment I'm just putting a running stitch around his waist so I can pull the trousers tight. So this is going, I'm stitching into the wool for that, to do that. Yeah. Oh, Pat's been busy making masks, of course, as many of you have. Hi Steffi, I know what you meant. I can't knit at all, sadly, or crochet. My mother does, so I will be outsourcing the baby basket. Oh, that's nice. Yes, good idea. And maybe you can also tell your mum to knit the doll's body, and then you can make the rest yourself. So Donna is saying, Steffi, a lot of people had a difficult weekend, and I remember a friend of mine practiced Reiki and said the moon phases can drastically affect mood. I wonder if the moon was responsible this weekend. I am very happy to blame my grumpy and foul mood on the moon. I'm the first one to be saying that's quite all right with me. Yeah, it wasn't. It was. Yeah, it's just been funny. Just a funny old time. There. I made a point of spending time with my younger girls the last few nights. It's quite nice, just lying in bed watching TV in the evening. I usually am asleep before they are, yeah, all kinds of. I don't know. I had an early morning this morning because one of my cats was sick on the bed. Thanks for that. And you know when you hear them about to throw up, which is not very nice. Sorry, I've got another loop here again. I need to rescue somehow. Where's this coming? I might have been from. I'm just gonna cut it off. There. Go around it again so it doesn't come out loose. I always double my thread up, so it's not. So that should be nice and solid on him, and this is as far as I got with the dolls when I was on Create and Craft, and now you can see that this wasn't exactly selling it, right? Come on, you got to admit. Don't be nice now, but this just doesn't look right. Yes, you can make these, and they're ever so nice and ever so cute to make. So some weirdo with weird mittens on, no shoes, no hair, a V section. No, what is it called? Yeah, well, you know what I mean. Yes. So anyway, it will change very quickly because now we're going to put a top on him, and I already had that piece here that I thought would be perfect for it. And again, we're measuring it to size. I'm going to go a bit smaller now so you can see that again. So there's my little doll. I'm laying him on top. I've got the folded edge at the top, and I want that to be neat to his neck, and it's slightly long, so I'm going to cut it shorter now, about 2-3 centimeters. Yeah. If you have a separate piece of felt, then obviously just don't waste all of that. The sleeves are a tiny bit long, so I'm going to cut a little bit off the sides as well. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to measure him, lay him down again, so that the fists peep out on either side. Yes, they do. And now I'm going to cut, and I've got to turn it around so I can see it the right way around. So the arms are there, and I'm just cutting into the side of that. Now this is where you have to be not very generous. Just be bits. Just don't cut too much, because you can always make it cut a bit more, but once it's cut off you can't do it again. But I'm only cutting one side, so I've only cut it around his body on one side, because now I'm going to fold this in half there. So I've folded in half, and then I'm going to cut the other side according to the first side, so I'm using that as a template on top. Told you I'm a terrible dressmaker. I'd never make it. Can you imagine making dresses like this? It'd be hilarious. There. So now I have got, ta-da, a jumper. Well, it's a top. And of course, again, the top is closed because that's the fold. So what I'm doing now is I'm folding it back in half, and I'm just cutting a little triangle out of the top here in that corner. There. And of course, that won't be anything enough to fit a head through. There. But because he's wearing scrubs, it's actually quite convenient to have the front open. I'm just going to cut a slit in there, and so that's now ready to put over his head. Yeah. And then, you've guessed, I'm going to sew around his body to make this into a fitting top. So I've got to sew up the sides under the arm, and then I've got to also sew the sleeves onto the little fists. That was my only concern about making scrubs for making a care worker, a key worker or a care worker, is that I can't give them short sleeves. It's just too too much hassle. So I'm going to just sew around the outside, and for this I will be using a darker thread, and I'm putting a blanket stitch on it, not so much to make a feature, but I can't really, I'm sewing it on and then it stays on rather than fitting it. Not fitting it, rather than sewing it on and then putting it onto him. So I'm using a black thread, but I will be using a blanket stitch. So it's kind of a nice stitch, but it's hard for you to see, but I don't want it to be visible. And this is also a slightly thicker thread, so I don't need to double it up. It's just what I've got in the basket here, or my very useful toolbox, which we do sell. Those, I love them. Sorry, I'm just concentrating to make sure that thread doesn't wander out. What I'm doing here now. So I'm sewing it up at the bottom of the sleeve first, and the reason for that is because now I'm just going to go smaller. Just hold it out of the way so you can just see the white. That's probably a bit better. So I've sewn into the bottom of the sleeve, and now I'm going to sew the sleeve snug onto the hand. So I'm tucking all this extra stockinette away inside the sleeve and pulling the sleeve close, and I'm actually putting an over stitch around there. So I'm just going into the stockinette, straight into the felt, and going over, and then keep going round the whole fist. And I'm going to do this a couple of times until the sleeve sort of gathers up a bit and goes around the fist. So I'm closing it up so that the fist is just poking out now. There. One more. And you can go over it a second time because you don't want it to come loose. And because I'm doing this first, I'm still at the right place to then continue sewing the gown up under the arm. So I'm doing that next. And obviously I've got to go all the way along this part here. And what I've done with this little chap here, I've left a bit of a gap there, which I thought was quite nice, so he can has more leg movement. Maybe that's even what they're like for real. So I'm just going to go big again so I can do the sewing while we can chat. Yes, I know it is much better than smoking and drinking. I was just using it as a joke. Crafting is fun. Sorry, don't apologize, Donna. Sorry, you should know by now. I'm German. There's either black or there's white. There's not much grey in between. So I did get it. I do apologize. I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, yes, definitely crafting is better than smoking, but it is very addictive. I do agree with you. Especially when you're on a roll, and especially when you've got lots of success, or you've got the bit between your teeth and you want to make it work. And you do a lot of knitting and crocheting, Donna. Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know that actually. Oh yes. Oh, sorry. I'm reading backwards again. Jane is saying these tutorials have been lovely. Firstly, seeing how to do something, and also feels like contact with the outside world. Well, tell me about it. I tell you, I had recently. Oh, and we've got a really good surprise planned for our birthday celebrations, because we're going to do. We're thinking of doing a Facebook Live, which means that we can position probably the phone somewhere, and then we can all walk into the camera as and when, with still keeping up the social distancing here at work, and we can all and then we let you know when that is, and you can all make cake, and then we all have cake together. You have to eat yours and we have to eat ours, but at least we can eat it together, and it will be so much fun. I can't wait to do that, because I think with Facebook it's probably a little bit easier to, mind you, we can live stream now on YouTube as well on our phones, because we've got 1,000 followers, but then you probably wouldn't want to keep that on Facebook. Nobody wants to watch that afterwards unless they're desperate. And you can still watch it on Facebook as well, but you have to be on Facebook. That's the only. Sorry, I'm just talking to myself. I tend to do this a lot these days. I'm talking more to myself than to anybody else, and certainly I think I speak more to myself than anybody else speaks to me. So that's probably why. Yeah, I know that people are saying, oh, thank you, Steffi, for doing this. Thank you, the makers, for doing this. But I'm telling you now, these are just as beneficial for me than they are for any of you. And if I can give a little bit back, because you're all there watching me, it just means so much to all of us. And yeah, I don't know how much time I've already. Oh, I'm already in this for an hour and a half. I haven't even done hair yet, but the hair is really, really quick because I came prepared. I just need to sew a bit faster and talk less. Where am I here? So when you don't double your thread up, it's quite easy to lose it. This is the worst color I could have chosen. A black thread on a dark blue. Whatever got into me. But anyway, I'm doing it. Lost it again. Okay, I'm just going to concentrate. Oh, thank you. Helen agrees with Jane. That's always good. Of course, when you watch these tutorials later on, you might not be able to see all the that's been going on. So that's why I keep repeating it. Okay, that's now the end of this side, and now I just got to do the other side quickly. Let's get rid of that. Hope you're not all having to shoot off. Nearly done. Okay. Oh yes, what I was going to say is, that's right. So we do like a pub quiz with our CrossFit group on a Saturday night, and you were saying how much this has helped you, just having outside world contact, and I feel like that about those quizzes as well. They're so funny, and it's so nice to see people, and yeah, it just makes me want to be really social. And I'm usually, even though I do a lot of face-to-face stuff in normal times, I'm actually quite an I don't want to say antisocial. I'm quite an introverted person. I really do enjoy my own company and can spend a long time in it as well without feeling the need to get out. But having been so deprived, I mean, you notice that you've been deprived of human contact in that way when you start telling anybody at random your life story, which is what seems to be happening to me. I just go into the supermarket and there's an opportunity. We're standing in the queue, of course, miles away, so that also means that everybody else can hear it. I don't care. I'm just like literally start rabbiting on about all kinds of things that make no sense whatsoever to that random person, and they probably think there's some escapee German on the loose. But yeah, I think it's just that time where you, like I say, I'm talking to myself. Oh, actually, that also reminds me, I really do want to mention, or give everybody, not everybody, but just put it out there that I know that lots of people have lost, or at least know somebody who has lost a loved one during this coronavirus crisis. But I also think we must remember the people who are not mentioned, who have lost their lives, and who are not in their death certificate. It does not say due to coronavirus, but they've lost it definitely because of the crisis. And those are the people who commit suicide. Those are the people who have suffered abuse and as a consequence die. And in none of their death certificates will it say due to coronavirus. So I just feel they're sort of getting missed a bit, even though they're there. And it's so sad, so very sad, that this is even happening. So if we can all craft, that's my theory, that's my ambition in life, if we can get everybody crafting, then everybody will be happy, because it gives you something to do and you can be proud of yourself and you keep your hands busy and you can keep your mind thinking about what you're doing and why you're doing it and all the rest of it. And the main thing is that you end up with something that you will love. But it's not always the end result. I used to have a craft shop, and there was a lady who would come and she would knit the same ball of wool every time in the knitting group, and when she's knitted it up, she would undo it and knit it again. It was terrible for my trade, but she was happy. She just unraveled it and started it again. And it was all about the actual rhythmic motion. And they do say that knitting for children is really good. It helps them develop the brain that they need to do maths. So I think it's good if you do crafts, and everybody likes different things. I do find sewing quite satisfying as well. I do like sewing by hand. I don't use a sewing machine. I'm a bit of a yeah, not too keen on the sewing machine. Right, is anybody still sewing along? How are you doing? I think, Karen, were you sewing along? This is not meant to be a sew along, so if you don't panic if you think you've missed out on anything, you can rewatch this, and remember it is also all in the book. So you can make your own doll, and different versions, different hairstyle, different everything really, by looking what is in there. Right, I've finally sewn up this top, and I'm going to now, there he is, can put his arms into a more natural position now, and all we need to do now is give him some hair to cover up that nasty head at the back. And for this I'm going to go really quick, because all I've got is a bit of felting wool here. You can do all kinds of things. You can oh, there's so many hairdos. You could crochet a little cap and put it on the head, and then yeah, add more hair to it. You could be yeah, like this one. So she's got little buns. This is my very, very first Dolls House Dolls I've ever made, years and years ago, which my oldest daughter said, oh Mum, please don't give it away, I really want that one. You can make plaits like that, sew the hair on, long hair like that, or curly hair like that in a wild colour if you like. Where's, oh, there. Or keep it short and just sew it on like that. So I'm going to do it similar to my little blue person there, and I'm just going to sew it on. I'm going to give it, you can give it quite a wild hairdo that way, but then I cover all the bits up on underneath. And all you're doing is you're basically sewing it on as you're going along. So if you are doing this for a younger child to play with, then you might need to do this very thoroughly. But use a dark thread if you can't find the exact color matching to the brown, if you're using brown wool. And just keep sewing the wool into place as you're going along with little stitches. So it's soon enough will sort of fasten on. There you go, already quite well done. And as nobody can afford a haircut, we just make wild hair, because that basically means that no, it's not that you can't afford it. Of course we all can afford it, you just can't have it cut unless you're married to a hairdresser or living with one. My husband took the dog clippers to his hair. Couldn't believe it. In fact, the children did it, and yeah, I must say I'm not that impressed, but it's not my head, so it's fine. And I'm just sewing it on at the back as well, so it's sewn on all around. And the only other thing I was going to show you, oh, he hasn't got any eyes. Okay, so the eyes, if you're sewing eyes and the mouth on, you can do this from the back of the head, so you can embroider it on. Because I've started with the hair first, because I feel now I need to end this, otherwise everybody will fall asleep in front of the screen. I'm going to show you quickly how you can needle felt the eyes, but of course if you want to embroider them, you can do that too, and that's absolutely fine. There are lots of ways, or you just don't give them a face, that's fine too. Nearly done. Okay, I'm going to leave the hair here as it is, because normally I would go over it again, over it again, over it again, but this will definitely stay on, will be good enough for now. There you go. So he's got a he or she, not sure. If you're needle felting the eyes, then you can do this with tiny amounts of eye and mouth colored wool. Oh, there's a bit of blue. Let's use that. And I've got some red. I know I've got some red in this basket as well. I call it basket, but it's not a basket. It's a very useful sewing box, which is extremely messy because that's what I do. I'm such a messy crafter. I want to be tidy, and then I'm caught up in the process, and I never tidy anything away until I can't find anything, and I've got to tidy away. There's some red. Right, that'll do. Right, just going tiny so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. Got my chappy here. You can also needle felt the hair on. I did that at the weekend. Just have to watch that you don't break your needle. So if you don't want to sew it on, you could felt it on, but just be mindful at the very back of the head. If you stab into it where you've got that doubled up fabric, that might be harder to stab with your needle. Yeah, see the needle bounces off, but it is possible. So all I need is a tiny bit of blue, and roll this into a little ball. Put it on his face, and remember we made an eye line, so keep it with that eye line, and then just stab it in. I quite like needle felted faces on these dolls because the eyes look a bit rounder and a bit more natural. And another piece of for the other side. It's quite fiddly. Can you even see that? Am I still in the screen? Is that the same color? Yes. Yeah. Ah, that's nice. Faces do make a difference. And then a little mouth. God, she's definitely piled the lipstick on that one. I think it's turned into a she. She looks a bit more like a she than a he. Suddenly. A few stabs here in the body as well. Yeah. God, definitely need to tone that lipstick down a bit. That's not. Do nurses and doctors wear lipstick? No idea. There. Oh, where are you? There. Woohoo! She's done. So to make a little face mask is obviously not that difficult because you've probably done them in large and you've worn them in large, but it's just a little bit of fabric. I've kind of tiny shaped it a little bit. There. Just cut the edges off a bit so it's more like an oblong, slightly rounded thing. And then all I've done is I've threaded. I've put a tie at the back. There, show you here. There, like that. It's kind of quite a substantial tie, but it works. And then you have your two. Nurse, doctor, whichever. And if you want to make a coat, then you do it exactly like you did the top, but instead of keeping it closed at the front, you just cut it open at the front. And because I was really rushing to do this, I just run a running stitch here. With a coat, you could sew it from the wrong side up round because you're putting it on afterwards, so it could have a proper seam. In fact, I could still do that. And then you can on them that way. And oh yes, shoes. Hasn't got shoes. I was going to show you the shoes. Okay, I'll do that quickly. So these are the shoes. They've got like little bits in there where the feet can fit. And all you need is some glue. I'm using PVA glue. I'm just going to put a dab of glue inside those shoes. It's going to come squirting out in a minute. I used a different glue upstairs. I'm just going to check what's going on inside that glue bottle. This could potentially be messy. What can I use? Back of my felting needle. Ah, it's a good old gunk there. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of that now. That's why it's not working. Put that down for a minute. Where's my bin gone? Oh, there's a piece of paper. Oh. Okay, I'm going to tidy that needle up in a minute. But I've used the back of the needle, which is probably better than using a front. There we are. I'm using the front now to just give it a poke, just in case, oh, there's more in there. Okay, this is not part of this tutorial. This is just out of necessity to get the glue bottle working. There we are. It's when these lids don't get put on properly. In fact, there's a lot of gunk in there as well. So just put a bit of glue. Oh, come on. I've got another glue bottle. Okay, I'm getting the second glue bottle out now, which is here. It's probably not working either. Oh yeah, this one is very willing. Bit of glue into the shoes. And then for good measure, I put a bit of glue all around the outside of it as well, because don't just glue the feet in, glue the base of the trousers in as well. That's why I'm showing you this. I'm just gonna go small for the last minute, and then, so there are the shoes, and all you need to do is just pull the trouser legs up. Got his funny little legs here. Just stand one foot in there and then the other foot in there. There like that, and lower the trouser legs and make sure that they're sort of on top of the shoe, so that they don't worry about if it shows the glue for now, because it will just disappear. Just make it stick to the shoes. They're really cute. They're perfect for these little dolls. We do sell them separately as well, but if you buy our starter packs, you get them as well. You get 2 pairs in the large one, and oh look, somebody's on the ground. First aid. Mouse to mouse. First aid. There you go. Perfect. Perfect care key NHS worker has just resuscitated the nurse who is flat on her back on the ground. Lost his shoe in the process. Okay, that was a little bit too soon to put this doll into action. But anyway, they're all well. Nobody's come to any harm. And that's it. All done for the day. Oh, these wretched shoes. Okay, they will stay on if I just leave the doll in peace and not mess with her. Right, that's it. Sorry about this. Got a bit carried away there. So just read a few more of your comments. Could you hold up the doctor in scrubs again, please, so I can see it close up, small screen. Okay, so there's the doctor in scrubs. He has got flower stamen around his neck to double up as a stethoscope. He has got a face mask, which has just slipped down, so it needs to go up again, there. And this is the one that has already got the face mask on with the tied back. This is the one I made today, whose shoes I have just messed with, but they will be fine. They will just stay on. Yeah, all done. If you wanted to, you could put a bit of white felt underneath it. It looks a bit like she's got lots of chest hair. Which is fine. We don't judge. There you are. There she is. All done. Yeah, good. Okay, what else? Yeah, we could have a birthday party on Zoom. I did think about this, but if we're doing if we want to invite lots of people, I think we can't have more than X amount of people on Zoom. It's going to be really hard to see everybody, so I think we might do it, yeah, the other way. That's it. I think we're at the end. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry it's been so long, but it's been an absolute pleasure. Definitely also from my side. So as I say, it's not just you who get something out of it. We all get something out of it. So lovely to see you, and thank you for joining, and come back when we do the little baby, or before that even. Just have a look at our Facebook page. We have all the episodes of our live stream happening there. I think I'm on Friday again, and there's also something else happening on Friday. I will let you know about that. And oh yes, they're on our website as well if you don't have access to Facebook, so you can see it as events on Facebook as well, on our website as well. Right, I say bye for now. Take care, stay safe, and be happy. Bye.